So if I'm reading correctly in the handout, it says I'm supposed to give a drush at this time. And normally I would do that, but I don't know about you guys, but it's been a bit of a week. And there is a great deal to talk about. As Rabbi Berzin spoke about Israel last week. And a lot in our hearts, a lot in our thoughts, a lot in our minds. And it's very important for Rabbi to speak about that, but sometimes it's also nice just to celebrate Shabbat, to take a breath, to let the outside world be, and just to focus on the inner spiritual life and the life of our families and the life of our communities. So rather than a drosh tonight, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story by my colleague and friend, Rabbi Jason Rosenberg. And the story begins with a woman. At this point, a very old woman, much older than anyone celebrating a birthday this month. This woman had built for herself a house in the middle of nowhere on the top of a hill. Hills are those things that rise up above the ground, I understand. They're a little anomalous too. Never mind. She had lived there for a very, very, very long time, as long as anyone could remember. It seemed like she lived up there forever. It was a strange thing building a house up on a hill. There was no one around for miles, no one to talk to, no one to be with, no one to help. But what was really odd about the decision to live up there was that there was no running water. I guess this was before plumbing and all of those things which make our lives so convenient. There wasn't even Wi-Fi. And so since water doesn't like to run back uphill, there was no easy way for her to have water in the house. Instead, she had to get it for herself, by herself, every morning. Every morning, she followed the same routine. She'd walk outside and pick up a long pole. Next to the pole, there were 2 buckets, each with a loop of rope over the top. She would take the first bucket and hang it on the left side of the pole, my left to your right. And then she would take the second bucket and hang it from the right, my right, your left. Always the same bucket on the same side in the exact same way. She would rest the pole across her old but surprisingly strong shoulders, and she would take the narrow dirt path down the hill to the stream that ran past it in the bottom. She would take the pole off her shoulders, gently placing each bucket off the pole, and then one at a time dip each bucket into the stream, filling it with cold, clear water. Then, just as carefully, she would place each bucket back on the pole, so carefully lift the bucket back up and back onto her shoulders and make her way back up the path to her little house at the top of the hill. But that right bucket, you see, had a small crack in its side. And as soon as she started walking up the hill, the bucket would start leaking. A steady, persistent drip, the bucket running out of water, step by step, so that by the time she reached the top of the hill, the bucket was completely dry. She would put the right-hand bucket back where it had started and take the left-hand bucket with her to use throughout the day. Day by day, year after year, the morning unfolding the same way. Left bucket on the pole, right bucket on the pole. Walk down the path, take the buckets off the pole, fill the buckets, put them back on the pole, pick up the pole, march back up the hill. Drip, drip, drip. Right-hand bucket gets put back where it started. Left-hand bucket gets used every single day. The days passed. The months passed. The years passed. Nothing changed. Still no Wi-Fi. The same routine every day until one morning, the woman was getting ready for her day, about to head out the front door to pick up her buckets and her, and her pole, and then down to the stream, when she heard a loud knock at the door. She was more than a bit surprised. No one ever visited her. No one was there. She opened the door, looked outside, and saw nothing. No one was there. She looked around again, wondering if someone was hiding in the woods, playing a trick on her. But she saw no one. She started to turn back into the house, ready to close the door, when she heard a voice cry out, "Hey!" She reeled around and stuck her head back outside the door. No one. She didn't see anyone. Then she heard, "Hey, down here!" She looked down, and to her great surprise, she saw the right-hand bucket, the one with the crack in it, sitting right there on her front porch. She stared at it for a brief moment before saying, yeah? Not really knowing what to expect to happen. Whatever she might have expected, it probably wasn't for the bucket to answer back. Do you know who I am? It asked her. Why, yes, of course. You're the bucket from the right-hand side of the pool. She spoke to it as if it was completely normal, even though it very much wasn't. That's right. I'm the bucket from the right-hand side of the pool, and I am furious. Furious? At what? At you. At me? You're furious at me? What in heaven's for? For mocking me. Mocking you? She said in stunned disbelief. How? What do you mean? Every single day, the bucket said, every single day you put me on that pole and carry me down to the stream. You fill me with water just like a bucket should be filled, just like a bucket wants to be, and then you carry me back up the hill as if nothing is wrong. And I fail every single time because I am broken. And you won't fix me. I'm a bucket. I'm meant to carry water. That's what I do. That is who I am. That's what I'm here for. But I can't be that. I can't do that because I have this crack, this defect. I'm a failure at the one thing I'm meant to do. Do you have any idea at all what it's like for me, what it's like to go through life day after day knowing that I'm a failure, knowing that I'm useless? All I want to be is a bucket, a proper bucket, a good bucket, a useful bucket. It's not a lot to ask, but you won't even give me that much. If you had the common decency to spend a few minutes, just a few minutes repairing me, I'd be fine. I'm so close to being a decent bucket, but you don't seem to care enough to help. Instead, you carry me back and forth, up and down that hill, day after day, each and every day, failing at the one thing I'm meant to do, failing one drip at a time, one day at a time. What have I ever done to you to deserve this much cruelty? And the old woman looked down at the bucket had which been on her right side for all these years, with a look on her face which was a mix of sadness and caring. After a long moment, she began to speak. My good friend, I am so sorry. I had no idea you felt this way. You've been suffering all this time, and you have no idea at all, do you? What do you mean? No idea about what? Here, let me show you. She gently picked up the bucket and carried it over the top of the path, which they both knew so well. Look down the right side of the path, she said. What do you see? Nothing. It's just the path, the same path we walk every day. That's right, that's what it is. That's all that it is. Now look at the other side. What do you see there? The bucket looked and noticed the two sides were nothing alike. Looking down from the top of the path, the right-hand side was bare. But the other side, the other side was alive with color. The other side was covered with flowers, thick and lush, showing off every hue you could imagine. It was so alive, so beautiful. I planted those flowers many years ago, the old woman said. They're lovely, but they need a lot of care. And they especially need a lot of water. So when I found you, I knew I had found exactly what I needed. Every morning I fill you with water, and every morning as I walk back up this hill, you sprinkle out so carefully, so precisely, drop by drop, exactly the right amount of water to keep these flowers alive, to keep them flourishing, to keep them beautiful. This is the most wonderful place in my entire world, and it's all because of you. I'm so sorry you never knew this. So sorry that you thought that you were broken, that you were a failure. You are not a failure. You're not broken. You are perfect. The bucket stood there stunned into silence. And the old woman looked at it with ancient wise eyes and said, what's amazing is that precisely the thing that you thought made you broken was exactly the same thing which made you so powerful. What you thought was your greatest flaw was exactly what I needed to make our world a more beautiful place. The crack which you thought made you nothing was exactly what I needed to make our world holy. On this Shabbat, as we look out and oftentimes see a broken world, and we see ourselves as broken in this broken world, may we be reminded that we're all like the buckets. What we may see as flaws are actually part of what makes us who we are and are part of what defines our ability to help make the world a little less broken and a little more holy. Shabbat Shalom.